everybody, I'm Matt Valley. Welcome to the Rock and Roll Research Podcast, where we share the super cool backstories, side gigs of the insights and analytics pros that you trust. Special treat for me here today. I'm welcoming a former client to the podcast. Chad Nicholson and I met years ago when he was at Anheuser-Busch. I was at a crazy supplier called Market Tools back in the day. Chad, he went on to become the brand manager on Budweiser. What a cool job that is. But now for the past 12 years, he has been at this powerhouse independent advertising agency based in Kansas City called BarkleyOKRP, where he is the EVP of Strategic Intelligence. Now, you've probably seen I know you've seen Barkley's work over the years. If you've seen the classic Sonic drive-in ads, right? So they're well known for that. But lots of other great brands like Winnebago and Easy Go golf carts, Smoothie King, the National Pork Board. Tons of really cool, awesome clients they've got on board. They've won tons of awards. Really great agency. So cool stuff. Now, here's something that a lot of people don't know about Chad. He was actually a Division I college athlete. Specifically, he played soccer or football, depending on where in the world you are and what you call it, which is really relevant right now because as we're recording it, was the first game of the World Cup played in Kansas City. It's the day after, right? So cool stuff. Games are going on in Kansas City where he is, at Dallas where I am, and all good stuff. So we're going to talk about all kinds of cool things today. So welcome to the show, Chad.
Well, thanks, Matt. I appreciate that. That was quite the introduction. I would like, have you come introduce me every time I need an introduction. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, just give me a call. Now, a couple of things before we get started. One, there is this really interesting connection that Chad and I have because the Chief Analytics and Data Officer at BarkleyOKRP is a guy named Demian Brink. And Dem is actually my high school classmate and buddy. So he's the only other person I went to high school with that ended up in kind of this whole insights advertising space. So it's always great to keep in touch with him. And it's very cool that you're working with him. So that's cool. He and I have lots of great stories. I could share those later.
Now, that's a different podcast, right? That's sort
that
of
is a different podcast. Yes,
right.
That is.
Yeah. Damien's great. It was amazing. I think it goes to show you how small I think the insights analytics world actually is, to where the three of us would have actually crossed paths in a way like we did and be able to connect all the dots. So yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I also want to send a shout out to the sponsor of this episode, which is a company called Insight Sutras, run by a guy called Winfred Sampson. It's a great company. I'm actually sitting on the board of Insight Sutras. So it's like full transparency, but I've been involved with the company for 6 years. They do amazing work. They are experts when it comes to research operations and analytics. They do offshoring, outsourcing, really trustable partner. No project is too big or too small. So I'm very thankful to Insight Sutras for sponsoring the podcast today. All right, cool. With all that, Chad, let's get started. So one thing I definitely don't know about you is how did you get into this whole space of insights, research, analytics in the first place, and kind of give us the journey of your career?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe it's like a lot of people. I would say by accident, actually, is the easiest way to say it. But without going into full detail or background, it is a little bit, I think, maybe of a unique kind of journey to where I am today. So when I was coming out of undergraduate school, and I went to Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. So go Thundering Herd. That's right. And I came out of there with a general marketing degree. It wasn't specialized in marketing research. That wasn't necessarily what I set out to do.
Sure.
But I was going to get my MBA. And while I was doing my MBA, I actually had an internship with Anheuser-Busch. And that was where I got my start at Anheuser-Busch, was as an intern. But it was an intern in their retail sales promotion department, or that's what it was called back when I started back in the year 2000. So, that was more of us doing sweepstakes, new product launches, packaging, graphic conversions within 7-Eleven and Walmart's were the stores that basically worked on. And the internship
Sure.
was supposed to last for the summer. It actually was, extended to go through the end of the year. The end of the year came, and my time in that retail sales promotion department was coming to an end, and I had made good friends with some people there and made some connections while I was, working in that department. And
Yeah.
specifically the HR person, and she came to me and she said, "Well, hey, there's an opening for an internship in the marketing research and planning department. Are you interested?" And I didn't really have to hesitate. I was like, "Well, absolutely. I don't know anything about what they do, and but I'm willing to take a look at it, and I would love to, just find any way I can stick around and whatever that means." And so I interviewed with the head of that department, and from there they offered me that internship opportunity. I went and did that then, starting that next year, and I never left. I never looked back, and that
Yeah.
internship in the marketing research department turned into a full-time position shortly thereafter, and my career was off and running at that point.
Yeah, yeah, super cool. You ended up going into brand management and then kind of back into insights and then
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, so I was in the insights world. I was doing that for about 5 years or so, and I had gone from, an analyst level and then into a research manager, and I
Mhm.
had worked across the portfolio, both on the what we called trademark brands at the time, Budweiser, Bud Light, and the, variants that come with them, but
Sure,
also on new products. And it was a lot of fun, doing the research, and it was, a part of, I think, getting to understand just the power of branding, the power of marketing, and just the research and kind of being in front of trends back then and kind of getting an understanding of branding in general that early in my career. And then I was able to kind of translate that into then an opportunity on the brand management team. And I really
sure,
looked forward to it at that point in time because I wanted to be able to not just be that far upstream with insights, but then take the insights, take the learnings, and be able to activate against them across all that a brand can touch, right? Whether that's the retail sales where I came from, or whether it's sports marketing, which we were heavily involved in at AB, whether it was, out and, you know, helping wholesalers from, to grow their business.
sure,
I wanted to be able to be part of all of that, but come at it from the viewpoint of the consumer and being able to take the research and apply it, because that is where a lot of what, I think I've seen over the years, it starts to you start to lose a little bit of what you learn, right? If you don't have the ability to apply it. And so I was able to then do that for a few years, and I did it for Budweiser, which was one of the coolest brands to work on, brand manager for Budweiser for about 3 years. But I also did it for Busch Light, Natural Light, which was a lot of fun. And then I went back up actually to the Insights team. Then they had rebranded themselves to Consumer Strategy and Insights, and
yeah,
worked back there at a director's level and oversaw what we were, called the premium light portfolio. And so that would be not just Bud Light and all the variants, but Michelob Ultra, Bud Select,
right.
and those at that point in time. And so it was just, a great experience. Loved, almost, pretty much every minute of it. Learned a lot, and then, translated that into an opportunity. I went over to Smithfield Foods and ran a brand marketing division there. And what really
Ah,
allowed me to, I think, run brand marketing at Smithfield Foods was the experience I had, right, in insights, always being grounded in the consumer, understanding what you have to do to be able to prove the effectiveness of what you're doing from a marketing perspective. But being in both insights and brand management is what I feel like has really been able to, help me over the years. And that's even today. So today at Barkley, OKRP, when I first came, they were doing a lot of research, and there was, that aspect of things, but it wasn't necessarily as centralized and codified as it is today. So I was kind of coming in, trying to help, the agency get a little bit further upstream and being able to help our clients. So not waiting until they say they knew a campaign, not waiting until they say they need a new brand strategy, but really help formulate that business growth strategy. What does that look like? New audiences, and if it means a new brand strategy or if it means a new campaign, then it does, but it doesn't always mean that, right? It can mean new
right.
products. It can mean reorganizing your portfolio to be a little bit more incremental to each other, so you're not having the same brands or products all on top of each other. But really getting in there, doing that research up front to inform then where we go when we are putting together our strategic recommendations.
Yeah, yeah, super cool. And I really love the fact that you have both, where you've worked in insights, but then you've been responsible for putting them into action, right? On a brand. And I think that that's super powerful because, especially like when you're working for an agency, you know in your guts, what it takes to be convinced in order to take an action or, make a decision based on the available data. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people like if you're just a career researcher and you never had to make the decision, then it feels a little bit more, you feel a little bit less committed to it, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that's right. I also think in being able to say the role that the research can play and or should play, right? I mean, I think
Yeah.
for me, research has always been an input to a decision, not doing research to make the decision. And so I think that's really helpful too, and being able to say, look, as we move forward with whatever we think is right for your brand, as we talk with clients, here's something that we learned through research that we think should be factored in. But there's also other realities to your business that we know exist. And I can, speak to some of those realities of the business as well, having been on brand management, having been on the client side. And we've now built a team here where we can do some of the same things. So our insights team here and our intelligence team and the strategists we bring in, there's a lot of great backgrounds here. So, I have the client side brand marketing background, but we have category managers, we have ex-consultants, from the big firms. We have people who have come from innovation agencies. We have people who have led quantitative, development teams at places like Gongo. So our team, is I would put it up against any team out there from a intelligence, research, and business strategy perspective.
Yeah, love it, love it. All right, so now let's talk D1 sports. So obviously you're playing soccer growing up. Give us a little bit of that story.
Yeah, well, it's funny, things just tend to happen. Life just kind of happens, right? I mean, growing up, actually, I played soccer my whole life, but baseball was really my first passion when I was a kid. I really wanted to go be a professional baseball player. I grew up in St. Louis,
Oh.
so anybody who knows anything about St. Louis knows how big the Cardinals are there. That was, I wanted to go play for the Cardinals. That wasn't in the plans. I got to a certain level at baseball, found out I wasn't that good at hitting a curveball and or trying to catch up to a 89-mile fastball just wasn't going to happen. So soccer though was always there, and it was always something that was just came a little bit more natural than the baseball side of things did, and I did love it. And so it was something where I didn't always plan on playing beyond high school, but I did get the opportunity to do that at Marshall. And it was one of those where once it came along, you kind of realized, okay, yeah, that is something that I think would really be fun. And for me,
Yeah.
growing up in St. Louis and really being in the Midwest most of my childhood, to be able to go to Marshall, which is Huntington, West Virginia, different part of the country, and I knew we'd be playing schools in that part of the country, so the Southeast and kind of the Ohio Valley. It was just a really cool thing that I was, looking forward to doing and thought I had to take advantage of the opportunity and experience something, a little different for those 4 years.
Yeah, yeah. So you played all 4 years, is that right?
Played all 4 years. Yep. It was great. When we came in, there was there was a large crop of freshmen that came in with me. It was a first year head coach. The program had been around a while, but the head coach was new. Brought in a whole bunch of new freshmen. I was part of that group. It was kind of a turnaround type of a situation for the program at the time, trying to get it, a little bit more back on track, back into some winning ways. And so for 4 years, we were able to do that and build on that success. And now actually the program is a new head coach and, different faces, but the success that they've had lately has been pretty impressive. For anyone who keeps up with college soccer, Marshall's been top five, NCAA Division One for the last several years, and they were national champions back in 2020 and had made it to the finals last year. So that program's gone on to have a lot of, great success, which is fun to see.
Yeah, yeah, very cool, very cool. So that's a very interesting background to have, right? That becomes, one of the dominant defining aspects of your college experience. I'm interested to know if there's anything that you maybe learned from that experience that you've applied to your professional life.
Of course, there is. As far as some things just that might be worth mentioning, I think change is good, right? So I went from I was like I said, I was in the Midwest. I kind of knew what that was about, looking for something different, and that change of going from the Midwest to that other part of the country without knowing anyone else there, I thought was, certainly something that, well, having done it and having enjoyed it, showed me, okay, change can be good, so don't fear change, actually run to it and embrace it, because that's always, something that will pay off later. But then also having to go into that new situation there, we're not knowing anybody. And when you get into the college, college in general is this way, but certainly when you're on a team, you have people from all walks of life, literally all parts of the world on that team. And, it's trying to figure out how do you work together and what's the role of everybody on that team and what is it going to take to be successful. And the work that you have to put into it, the chemistry that you have to create, how to communicate with each other, all of those things, to work against that one common goal of winning that game or winning the conference or trying to get into the NCAA tournament. All of that for me, I feel like is still very similar to what we do today, right? I mean, you're put on a team and you've got people from different backgrounds, different experiences, and you got to figure out a way to make that work. And certainly here at the agency, when we've got strategy and we have creative and we have media and we have sub departments within each of those, to bring all of those people together, and pull together a winning plan and a successful kind of project. I think I certainly draw on those experiences from my college days all the time for that purpose, and when to try and lead and when to fall into place and play your role.
Yeah.
Those are all the things that I still fall back on from what I've learned during my my days at Marshall.
Yeah, yeah, I love it, love it. All right, so let's get back to insights. Like, it's no secret that this space is changing rapidly, with AI coming into play and having to rethink everything that we do. And that's not just insights, right? That's advertising. That's the whole thing. So, asking for you to check your crystal ball here, Chad, if you're looking out into the future, what do you see? What does change look like?
Yeah, right. I think if anyone actually answered this question in a way that made you feel like they already know, I'd be interested to hear that, because I think the exciting part of it is we don't know. We really have no idea like where things are headed. I think though, obviously with AI and that being what everybody is talking about currently and its impact on research specifically, I've heard a lot of different, you know, narratives to it, on the pro side, on the con side. I think from my perspective for research and where it's going and what AI specifically can do to it is, for me, the thing in my career I've always been told if research doesn't take place is it takes too long or it costs too much. And
Right.
so for me, AI breaks down the two most significant barriers to doing research and getting closer to the consumer. And so for me, I actually see AI as opening up more opportunity to do more research, not less. And I really look at it as just like any other, I'll call it methodology or tool that has emerged over the last 20 plus years, 25 years in this space. It'll find its role and people will start to use it for that. I mean, Matt, I think back when we were first starting working together and you referenced market tools, I mean, to be able to have a platform for us to be able to go to and program our own surveys and put them out into the world, and collect that data, digitally versus through a phone or paper surveys or whatever the case may have been was really breakthrough at that time, right? And
Right.
so, those things have always happened. And then the invention of social listening or, the other things that have happened for collection of insights. This is just another version of that. And then well, what role does it play and when do you want to leverage it? I still see the future of insights. Maybe there's this hybrid version to where, sure, AI is going to work across the board, but from a purely maybe synthetic audience perspective, which is what gets a lot of discussion right now,
Mhm.
I think there's a role for that. I think it depends on what the objective of the research is, and how you want to leverage that. But I see it as a really great way to, I think back to all the focus groups I've done over the years. The first 20 minutes is just getting the things you expected to hear out of the way so you can really get into the meat of the discussion. Well, I think you
Mhm.
can use synthetic audience and or AI research to be able to get the first 20 minutes out of the way before you even walk into the discussion with that consumer, because AI will
Yeah.
certainly do a really great job of kind of being able to tell you what's been said before and kind of collect that, synthesize it, and be able to kind of present it to you. But to truly get to net new ground and a net new insight that hasn't likely been discovered yet, I still think you need the human side of it, and you still need to get in front of people and talk with people, have conversations that may go directions you didn't expect to go. And you need to hear it repeatedly. One of the strengths when I was at AB is we were in market so often. Every week we were doing qualitative research
Yeah.
that once you started to hear the same thing, but in a different state, amongst a different demographic, it's like, wow, okay, there's something here. And then you
Right.
start to pay attention to it. And so there's very much still a human element to dig through the whys and those types of things as well that I think will continue to be there. But AI and synthetics certainly will play a role. And so, when I think of the future, I don't know when we'll get there. I think we're a little bit, in the middle right now in terms of when to use it and when not to, and what role does it play. But I think that'll work itself out. And, a handful of years, we'll be just talking about it and using it as though it's another tool and another methodology amongst all the other tools and methodologies that you can do within research.
Yeah, fortunately, we're at a time where the conversation is loud enough that there are a lot of people in organizations that are starting to do the work to really assess when does this work, when does it not work, what should we trust it for. I just saw a webinar by KSNR today where they talked about this echo index that they've developed, which is really cool stuff. So it's looking like help. So I think you're right. I think we'll get some more clarity as we go forward, but we're kind of in this primordial ooze at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually fun being in this seat on the agency side because we work with so many different clients
Yeah,
that were also, in different industries and different needs and objectives. We're able to really, I think, pressure test the limits of what AI can do from a research intelligence perspective as it relates to like breaking new ground, getting new insights, and what role can it really play. And there's some clients that have a more of a comfort level than others, and so it's always good to be able to work with different people, some pushing it, some really want us to be able to lean into it, others a little bit more skeptical. So I've always
yeah,
liked being on the agency side to where you can kind of get a good view and lay of the land. When I was on the client side, you tend to be very much in your world and
right,
you can go really deep in it and become an expert in it. And there's a lot of value to that. But on the agency side, I really like, also seeing kind of just this, what is the whole landscape doing? And you get a lot of, kind of inputs from that to be able to then help better predict where things might end up going.
right. Cool. All right, Chad. So you work in media, right? It's part of your professional life, day in, day out. But I'm curious about your personal consumption of media, what your media diet looks like. So what media is winning your time for either insight, inspiration, or enjoyment these days? Big broad question.
Well, of course, number one on the list is the Rock and Roll Podcast. That's where I
Oh,
go
of course.
first and foremost, right, for all of my inspiration and enjoyment. But I guess if we're moving on beyond just that as one of the options, for me, it's one of those where there's a few different ways that I would go about this or answer this question. I think as it relates specifically to like research and what we're doing in that and where the industry is headed, I'm like a lot of other people. I'm getting a lot of the, emails and the newsletters, and I'm following a lot of different, companies that are ahead of those and kind of issuing some of those. And so I'll take part of my morning and actually try and dedicate as much time as I can to just reading through some of that.
Yeah,
And whether it's like a green book or whether it's one of the consulting companies or whether it's YouGov or whether it's Morning Consult, all those different places that put out information, I'm always looking for that and going to certainly see what they have to say. But, outside of that, just daily life, and kind of what I'm doing or inspiration, kind of enjoyment. It's a lot like other people. I mean, I've got the same social media, apps on my phone that everybody else probably has. And I'm watching some of the same streaming services that others are probably watching. So not really anything probably too out of the ordinary. I think for me, it's more when I'm watching them or what I'm consuming, what I'm looking for, right? When I see an ad or when I see a form of whether it's an advertisement or just other what I'll call content that's put out into the world,
yeah,
always looking at it to assess who's the audience for that, what's the strategy
right,
behind it, What are they looking to accomplish by it? You know, and one of my favorites is always when I'll get people in my family who are clearly aren't the target audience for what was just, you know, what we just were exposed to or saw. And I don't get it. And I always am the first one, you're not supposed to. It's okay. Don't get it. But you're also left with an impression and you're left with an image, right? Whether you get the whole thing or not, you're left with an impression, you're left with an image of that brand. And so I love that and having those conversations. And so, you know, from a media perspective, I try and consume as much as I can with the schedule I have to do it. But, you know, for me, it's also fun to see how it's changed over the years and gone from the standard TV, print, out of home, you know, digital basic stuff to what it is today. And it's just, you know, our media team always impresses me with just how much they're able to keep up with all the, you know, moving parts and pieces to the media ecosystem. It's because it's a lot.
It is. It is. It is. All right. Okay. So you mentioned a rock and roll research podcast, Chad. I know you love it. But we haven't talked rock and roll yet, and that's just a miss. So we're gonna cover it now. And we've never talked music, so I'm super curious about your responses to this question. So we're gonna do it this way. You're stranded on a desert island, Chad. You have three albums of your choosing to keep you company for the rest of your days. What are
Yeah. Okay. So I've given this a little bit of thought, and so I'm going to answer this, and I'll give you as what I think a researcher would do, right? Give you the rationale behind it and why it's set up in the way that I'm setting it up or giving it to you.
all
Um,
right.
all right. So I've got the three. So I'm going to start out with. I am going to cheat on this one. So I am going with the greatest hits version for Journey. So my
Yeah.
high school years. Journey, I know they've been popular for forever, but I mean, for me, it was I first kind of, you know, discovered them during my high school years and listened to the
Yeah.
Journey Greatest Hits album almost nonstop during that period of time. So Journey's on that list and the greatest hits. All right,
Fun.
then fast forward you to my college years and maybe my early kind of adulthood years, a little bit post college, and we're going to do Dave Matthews,
Yeah. Yeah.
specifically the Under the Table and Dreaming, right? So different than the Journey side, but not too far removed. But that's a great, you know, just album overall. I've been to so many of his concerts back in the day. And I just felt like, you know, one song was better than the next from that album back at that point in time.
Yeah.
All right, and then a little bit more recent and a different genre, just to show you there's some, you know, there's some range here. But and I could have gone a lot of different directions with this, but I went with Eric Church and I went with Mr. Misunderstood as the album.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, it's interesting. So Eric Church, I first knew of him or had heard of him actually at my time at AB. Eric Church was a guy coming out of North Carolina, very well popular with that, you know, college age group at the time out of North Carolina. We actually used him at Budweiser as, you know, the act to when we would do certain activations before
Okay.
he really blew up.
Yeah.
So got to see him perform really early in his career, and it was just a great show then. It's a great show now. My wife enjoys listening to his music. My kids, you know, enjoy listening to the music. And the Mr. Misunderstood album, it just again felt like one song was better than the other. And so if I'm on that desert island, I can get a little bit of mix, you know, kind of like a different
Yeah.
phases of periods of my life, but then also different genres. And you know, they all have kind of different meaning to them. So those are my three.
You know what I tell you? So I ask this question every episode. And so it's been over 150 now, and it's pretty interesting. One thing that's a little bit unique about your list is that you have something that is post high school college. That's sort of like people usually kind of gravitate towards, you know, something that an album that meant, you know, something to them back then, just like you did. But you've got one that's more recent, which is really kind of cool, and some really fun choices. I was there when my brother bought the Journey Frontiers album when we were kids, you know, so it's like super fun choices.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure. Well, and you know, I know we didn't talk a ton about music earlier on, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, obviously, through my days playing, you know, soccer, like a lot of people do, right? Listening to music, kind of using that as a way to, for me, it was more about like visualizing what I want to have happen through
yeah,
music and listening to that music in a way that it wasn't like what some people will listen to that really gets you pumped up and kind of just the like, kind of loud and, kind of fast paced. It was a little bit more of the slower, a little bit more of the kind of like thing you could relax to and visualize what you want to have happen. And so I have quite a couple of examples I could give you there on that front too, if you want to know the songs for that. But
Right on. Let's
we'll
hear
leave it.
Zen. What was your Zen?
Well, so interestingly, one of them, there were many, but one of them that stands out to me more than the other, for whatever reason, I could just listen to this song and it just put me right into like a place where I could visualize exactly what I would want to have happen during that game. But it was Gangster's Paradise. So completely off, completely different than the albums I just gave you. But
Yeah,
if you listen to that song, it just has the right beat and the right pacing to it, and
yeah,
just the right kind of mix of stop to think, but also kind of like know you're about to take some form of action, right? You're about to go do
yeah.
something. So it'd be that one that I probably mentioned first.
Cool, cool. That's really fun because I had heard that the number one song at the gym is "Lose Yourself" by Eminem.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that's a
So
good one too. That can't go wrong with that one.
for sure. And those songs kind of have the same vibe, sort of same beat kind of
Yeah,
things.
a little bit, a little
Cool.
bit.
Cool. Awesome. Excellent. Chad, hey, I'm so glad that we've kept in touch all of these years so we could sit down and break bread here over a podcast. I'm really thankful for that. I want to send a shout out to Dem, if you're still listening, Dem. Been too long, so
Again,
oh man. Also a thank you to Insight Sutras for sponsoring this episode. Next time I'm in Kansas City, Chad, we got to get together. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
let's do it, man. I'd love to do it. And thank you for the opportunity to join you today. And it was a lot of fun. And hopeful, we'll be seeing each other sometime soon.
Excellent. Talk soon and
All
rock and
right. There
roll.
you go. Rock and roll. There you go.